You're listening to the Angry Marks Podcast Network.
How was your weekend?
My weekend was, I had a weekend. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I did the Shane Smalls Rumble to Remember, this past Saturday in Kinston, North Carolina. It was cool. If you check out my social media, it was almost like a family reunion of a lot of wrestlers that, I met and came into the business with, 10, 11 years ago. It's like a huge family reunion. But I had some problems, Kev. I'm not even gonna lie. Had some problems. They had a great crowd. But I was severely dehydrated this past weekend. I defended my worldwide Grand Prix title and stuff Saturday night. I had a gauntlet match where I had to face 4 opponents, in a row. 1, 2, 3, 4. And of course I won all 4 matches. But that ended up being about 25 minutes. And then I did, there was a couple of matches, intermission, another match, and then they had the Rumble to Remember, which had like 37 people in it. I was number 20 out of 37 people, made it down to the last 6, which, overall ended up being like another 20, 30 minutes of wrestling. Ended up getting eliminated by a very talented wrestler, named Jessie Jordan, who's a female, got eliminated by a female, whatever, Women wrestle, men wrestle. When you're in the ring, you're all wrestlers. It doesn't matter. That's a huge, but for some strange reason, people hated me so much in Kinston, North Carolina, which is like an hour and a half from my house. But I was so hated. I got the largest pop of the night, which I guess as a heel was a great thing. It wasn't so great that my kids were cheering for me, was cheering the fact that I got eliminated as well. But afterwards, man, which is, take the fans, listeners, take this as a learning example. Or take this as a lesson in life, especially professional wrestling. You can never be too hydrated. Because on the way home, I started getting the muscle cramps, started getting the body tightness. I had to pull over on the road, had to have my wife pull over on the road several times. It got so bad, I had to get a couple of bags of ice to put, my lower back and my neck to kind of cool my core body temperature down because I was so dehydrated. I was so overheated, could not stop sweating, could not stop cramping up. Saturday night, I'll say I drank about 1.5 gallons of water in like 3 hours, trying to hydrate myself. And just spent the rest of this weekend just really trying to hydrate, trying to get rehydrated. You don't realize how bad, being dehydrated is until it gets to that point where you can't move and like even your fingers and your arms and stuff, are cramping up from lack of hydration.
Yeah, I've unfortunately been there a time or two myself. It is not fun. So what the hell are you doing, Will? Get it together.
just making a rookie mistake, man.
You can't afford to make rookie mistakes. I can't.
At my age, no.
I can't replace you on this podcast if you die on me.
Well, I don't plan on dying, but I will say that this podcast would not have happened if this would have been, we recorded this show on Sunday instead of Tuesdays. This show would not happen this week, because I was in severe pain. And then Sunday, just from being dehydrated Saturday night, I just spent all day Sunday in bed. Just really could not really get out of bed. I was just so tired. My body was just so exhausted, from the severe shock of being dehydrated from Saturday night. It was bad. I don't want to relive that experience anymore. So I'll tell you what, from this moment on, best believe that I'm going to be constantly drinking water before the show, before the match, before the show, before my match, after my match, throughout the night. I'm going to be drinking plenty of water from this point on.
Good. Take care of yourself.
Yes. Now, Kev, you talked about a lot of bad things that happen in professional wrestling, and we're not going to talk about all of them. We just want to say, we just want to talk about one thing real quick. On behalf of the Wrestling Nerdcast and myself and Killer Kev and the entire Angry Marks podcast, we want to send a very heartfelt get well soon to the Nature Boy, Ric Flair, somebody that I consider one of the greatest, actually the greatest professional wrestler in the history of this business. I had the opportunity of meeting Ric Flair when I was younger, because of, like I said, my mother, I'm originally from St. Louis, and my mother used to take us to work when she worked at the Marriott at Lambert, Airfield and stuff, and whenever Crockett Promotions would come through that area, they always stayed at the Marriott, and, I got a chance to see him when I was a kid and stuff. met his son when he was alive, Reed, when he was alive, and got a chance to meet Ric Flair and stuff. So, not really into details of why he was in the hospital, not really into details of all of that. I just want to say, get well soon, Ric Flair.
Indeed. Get well soon.
So, yeah, that's all I'm going to say right there. How was your weekend, Kev?
My weekend was, well, like I said, there was a lot of shit that went down this weekend, and if you follow me on Facebook, you know my thoughts on it. It was not centered on professional wrestling at all.
Yeah, like I said, we're not going to get into that, because I realize no matter what side of the fence you're on, you're never going to, just like religion and everything else, you're not going to convince somebody they're right or wrong. So we're just going to leave that alone, because here at this podcast, we like to keep things fun. We like to have a good time. We like to talk about the positive things, not only in the world, but in the sport of professional wrestling.
Yes, indeed. So let's get to it.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, once again, like I was telling you before, we have a great guest on tonight. Some people know him as Mr. Grimm. He's known as the Hitman for Hire. If you follow this gentleman on social media, you know that he got a body bag for everybody. He is the Nova Apex champion. And when I say Nova, I don't mean the one, I don't mean the company in Virginia. I mean up there in Maryland. This guy is tearing up the New England, Northeast area. Just did an awesome tour in Canada earlier this year. About to pretty soon probably be tearing up the South and the Midwest and places really close to you. Anyway, tonight my guest on the line is the Hitman for Hire, Mr. Grimm. What's going on, man?
What's up, man? How are you?
I'm doing great, man. Did you like the intro? Did I forget anything?
No, not at all. You pretty much nailed it. Pun intended.
Well, first of all, before I begin to anything else, before I ask you any questions about your past or how you got started in this crazy business called professional wrestling, I'm going to go ahead and ask you this, man. What's up with the whole concept of the body bags, man? Me, myself, I'm a huge hip-hop fan. I listen to battle rap. When it comes to battle rap culture and stuff, they say when somebody gets beat so bad, when they get beat 3-0, there's no argument, there's no discussion. This dude just got embarrassed. They call that a body bag. You actually use a body bag in a ring, man. Where did that concept come from?
Well, it's a funny story behind it. One day I was just minding my business, and my best friend, Nala Rose, she hit me up, and she was like, "Yo, Amazon has body bags on sale for $20. You need to get one." And she said that, I bought it. Sorry it can't be, more exciting than that, but it was just, her giving me an idea, me following through with it, and, it actually getting over, surprisingly.
Well, of course it's going to get over, man. You're what I like to, when I talk about, big men and heavyweight high flyers, man, you definitely come to mind. You're doing tope suicidas. You're able to do a 450. It's so amazing to watch you in the ring and stuff. So where's the whole Mr. Grimm? How did you come up with the gimmick, Mr. Grimm?
Well, growing up, I always had a nickname. People would call me Grimm. And, I decided to incorporate that because then I initially got the nickname from my best friend, and he was actually killed. So, when I was thinking about my new gimmick, because I had a football gimmick at first, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to use this, as a, just as a respect to him, man, to show people that even though you're gone, my friend is still with me. So I decided to keep, incorporate that name. He would call me Grimm, so I decided to call myself Mr. Grimm.
Well, that's amazing right there. And shouts out and kudos for you for keeping for keeping people's memory, your loved ones' memory alive and stuff. Now let's get to the basics, man. Like, how did you get started? Who actually introduced you to this crazy world called professional wrestling?
Well, it's a funny story. This is a lot more exciting than the body bag one. But I was actually playing football in college. And one day, like during my break, my transmission went out on my van. So I was unable to travel back and forth to school anymore. So I went back to a company called Got Your Back Security, and I was doing security for him. And somebody hit me up one day and said, "Hey, we have a job. We're doing security for a wrestling show. Like, are you interested?" So I've never did security for a wrestling show before then. I was like, all right, this is something new to get into, and maybe I can network and see what happens. So when I got there, that's exactly what I did. It's crazy. Like, my first wrestling experience, I met Christian York, Black G's, Greg Excellence, Ruckus, it was and Mia Yim. I fell in love with Mia Yim. But
who doesn't? Who doesn't fall in love with Mia Yim? Come on now.
Yeah, look, can we change the subject about her? But no, yeah. So I got there, I met everybody, and I was talking to a guy, and I was letting him know that I always wanted to be a wrestler. I just didn't know how to get into it. So he was telling me, you got to find a school to train, and he was saying it was all these steps that you have to do. And he offered to train me, but I didn't take him up on that offer. I ended up going to this company called EWA. So, not to throw dirt on anybody's name, but if I would have known what I knew now about them back then, I would have trained somewhere else. But, I ended up training there, and, that pretty much got my career started.
All right, so, and I'm going to tell you the truth, man. I can really sympathize with you, because the guy that brought me into the business had no business training people. And so therefore, just like yourself, it's been basically a lot of on-the-job training and learning as you go, and, finding really good mentors and stuff that can lead you in the right direction. Obviously, you have some incredible mentors, man, because earlier this year, you did a tour in Canada, CWE. How was that first trip, that first Canadian tour, man?
Cold. It was very cold, but I learned a lot. It was my first time going out of the country, and I got to do it with Chase Owens from the Bullet Club, Tony Kazina, Danny Warren, the Beer City Brawler, I believe it is, Beer City Bruiser from ROH, and ACH.
Yeah, the Beer City Bruiser, yeah.
Yeah. And, just being on tour with them and being able to pick their brain, it helped me, tremendously. I didn't know that, Chase Owens, that dude, wrestling-wise is smart. He was showing me things that, was simple, but I didn't even think about it.
Oh, trust me, I know, Chase is a good friend of mine. And even now, every time I see him and stuff, where the show, obviously I don't see him as much as I used to, because he's in Japan a lot, but he always gives me little tricks like, hey, Will, what you did was cool, but try this instead. I'm not going to tell you how to do your stuff or how to do your gimmick, but I think you should do one of these. That sounds more, that's something that Chase always tells me. Is that how he approaches you?
Yeah, that's exactly, what he would do. He would watch some of the things that I would do, and, he would suggest something. He wouldn't say, hey, this is how you need to do it, but, he was very respectful about it. And, surprisingly, even though, with the success that he has, he's down to earth. Not everybody is like that. So I really appreciate
Oh, no, definitely not.
Yeah, I really appreciated him, taking the time, to go out of his way to help me.
All right, so, we've known about each other for several years because of social media and Facebook. And if you're a solid, what I like to consider, if you're a good to great wrestler, you know about each other. Even though a lot of fans think there's a million wrestlers in the world, there's really not a lot of us, and there's really not a lot of really good wrestlers, and there's even less really good black wrestlers. So I knew about you long before I met you. And I want to say the first time we actually met each other face to face was earlier this year at Beyond Wrestling studio taping. Am I correct?
Yep, you're absolutely correct.
Now, I will say, man, that I was completely impressed because you're a large guy. What are you, like 240, 235, 240?
260.
250?
No, 60.
260. All right, so Kev, I'm gonna tell you right now. So I see this guy, and he's not very tall. He's what, like 5'8", 5'9", 260 pounds. But 450. You know, you're doing moonsaults and 450s and stuff. When did you realize that? Have you always been that athletic, or was it just one day you're like, you know what, I'm gonna try to do this. Let me see if I can do a 450. Is that just one of those things that just pop up in your mind?
Well, I'd always, my trainer, now going back to, the whole EWA thing, my trainer, he was fine. It was just the company. I just want to put that out there. But he's been my mentor since day one. Even now he still helps me out. Anytime I have a question, concern, he helps me out. But it was him. One day we were training, he was like, what do you want to learn? And I said, hey, I want to learn how to do a standing moonsault. So he was saying, all right, he showed me how to do it, but he didn't do it himself. So when he told me how to do it, I landed it the first try. So,
oh, come on, man.
I'll lie to you not. Almost everything flip-wise that I tried when I was trying it for the first time, I landed it. Even the 450. And that video footage is actually on Instagram. But I was thinking, because I'm looking at a lot of people, a lot of big guys, and, they're doing what basic big guys do. And me, I wanted to stand out. So I was asking myself, I'm like, what could I do, to stand out and not just be labeled as a big guy? Because that's what people were looking at me as. Oh, you're just a big guy. So I started looking at things, and I believe Ricochet, I watched something that Ricochet did, and I saw him do a 450, and I was like, you know what, I should try a 450 one day. So one day I went to training, and I asked one of the guys there, I'm like, yo, can you show me how to do a 450? And he showed me, told me what I need to do. So I got to the top rope, did it, and ever since then I've, just been doing 450s.
All right, so as a fellow high flyer, a fellow heavyweight high flyer, because me myself as of right now this morning I weigh 303, but I'm still capable of doing a lot of the high flying stuff, the standing moonsault, the standing shooting star press. I haven't done a 450 in years. I'm not even gonna lie to you. I haven't done a 450 in years. But what goes through your mind when you're on the top rope and you're about to do the 450? What's going through your mind at that moment?
Every time that I'm up there, the only thing I'm thinking about is not falling off the ropes, because every rope is different. Like for every ring that you get in, sometimes you get wobbly ropes, sometimes you get tight ropes, sometimes the ropes are slippery. I actually, when I was in Baltimore for BCW, I went to do a C4 off the top rope, and it was baby oil on the top rope. So it took me a lot longer to actually set up for it. So, my whole thing, I'm just keeping my balance. After I get my balance, I just go for it. I don't think.
So what's been the response? Of course, I know the fans love it. The fans love to see a guy your size, my size, do moves that a lot of guys, half our size can't do. So I'm gonna go ahead and assume that the fans love it. But what's the reaction from a lot of the boys in the back and stuff when they see, a guy your size doing a lot of cruiserweight moves? Because I know, 10, 11 years ago when I first started, I used to get a lot of flack for doing moonsaults and things like that, because they said save those moves for the smaller guys. If you're doing these big moves, these high fly moves, what are the smaller guys going to do? You got to let them do it, quit doing it. I used to get a lot of flack, so I stopped. Now with guys like Keith Lee and yourself and Donovan Dijak, able to do a lot of these moonsaults and 450s and everything else, the gates have been wide open. But what has been the response to you in the locker room?
Well, I get mixed reactions, and it's funny that you would mention Keith Lee, because I actually sent a match that I had to Keith Lee. It was with me and A.R. Fox. And, he actually liked my work. I mean, he gave me, some critiques that I needed to, tweak and work on. But, he approved it. He said he likes Like I did a springboard swing blade, and he popped for that. So if somebody like Keith Lee, who, you know, is a person that I get compared to a lot, if he approves it, you know, look at the amount of success that he has doing it, you know, I say I'll just keep going with the flow. But like I said, there are people who think, oh, you're a big guy, you need, you know, not to do it. Oh, it's dangerous, you can hurt somebody. But I tell people like this, you know, people can get hurt off of a body slam. You know, any given move that you do, you know, the risk of getting hurt is there. So if I'm doing a 450 to skinny guys, bigger guys, and nobody's gotten hurt, and everybody's saying that I'm doing it safely, like, why does it matter?
True indeed, man. True indeed. Now, like I said earlier in your introduction, you're tearing up the Northeast, man. You're everywhere from Rhode Island to Maryland, New York, Canada, et cetera, et cetera. What are some of your favorite places to go wrestle at? Who are some of your favorite opponents, et cetera, et cetera?
Okay. I would have to say, like, right now my favorite place to wrestle is at Limitless Wrestling, and they're at Maine. You know, and it's like, I'm not sure if you know who they are, but they bring in names like every single
Of course I know it. Of course I know about Limitless Wrestling. Come on, man.
Yeah, but one of the, them and Legacy Wrestling, those, you know, off the top of my head are my two favorite, because I would say Legacy, they took a gamble on me, like, before I started, you know, getting the buzz that I was getting. You know, they took a gamble on me, gave me a tryout match. I got over with the crowd, and, you know, they kept giving me matches. I kept getting over. And then, you know, one day they just decided, you know, hey, we're going to put you up against A.R. Fox. And honestly, like, I would say after the match with A.R. Fox, it, like, you know, my career started going up even more.